All right, so we are right here in the middle of some stuff, y'all.
It's Babylon 5. We're always in the middle of some stuff.
Yeah. So we're looking at season 5, episode 9, titled Kingdom of the Blind. And to me, the writing here returns to top tier. It's great. It's a lot of the mystery, a lot of the setup and foreshadowing that Babylon 5 is known, at least that I know Babylon 5 for. And I think that is great. I also wanted to say something about the title, Kingdom of the Blind. Is there anything that it makes you think of when you hear that title for this episode?
Oh, like the blind leading the blind. The kingdom is supposed to lead.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. That's a bit of foreshadowing too, the title. Because it's leading it.
Yeah.
What's going on.
Yep. It's like we have one big mystery. While it is affecting almost everything in the episode, it stays in the background for a bit. So that means we're probably going to revisit that in a couple of episodes too. But the other things that it could be talking about is what's going on with the telepaths and what's going on with Centauri Prime. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the case of the deep state sort of thing. Like if you want to use that term. Then there is what Sheridan and the Interstellar Alliance are doing, because they are suddenly changed. They've suddenly changed. They're doing something that everyone feels like they wouldn't normally do. Mm-hmm. And so when we get into it, we'll see what might be causing some of this change.
Okay. I think that this episode was completely full of action, and it was quite refreshing. I recall you pre-recording mail comparing this to Frankenstein or something to that effect.
Yes, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The situation that the telepaths are in, where they aren't, it's not their choice to be different, but they're being persecuted for it. And even Mary Shelley, Frankenstein reflects the transatlantic slave trade, where people are being demonized for being in a situation that they were stolen and put into. And I was also thinking on the Centauri part, it feels very Poe-y, like Edgar Allan Poe. Like there's history in the back of this Victorian setting. And especially when you have Poe had a habit of putting people who are on pedestals like in horrible situations. Like everything that was bad about them, despite the fact that they have money and status and a house and all that stuff, luxuries, like they're just being destroyed from the inside with terror that they can't do anything about. Their riches and their comfort can't save them now.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and jump in because there's a lot that happens, and just like Sunday said, there's some action points. We'll point that out, and I'm gonna try to go a little quickly because some of these points I think are extremely important for us to focus in on. So we start off. There is a conversation between Garibaldi and Sheridan. They're talking about how there are ships being destroyed, and they're trying to figure out okay, who's doing it. And Garibaldi, who suddenly knows things, is like, yeah, they're not stealing the goods. There are no survivors. We don't know who did it. They're ruling out the raiders. And he's saying every member race is equally hit. There's no one specific to blame. So they're going to blame each other. They're being hit with military precision, and it's causing a lot of problems. It's weakening the connection in the alliance. The ISA, the Interstellar Alliance, they are demanding answers. And Sheridan is like, yeah, we're gonna figure this out. Even though tensions are rising, and they're gonna end up imploding and blaming each other. Meanwhile, we see a transport is being attacked, and this is a thing, who is attacking them? Nobody knows. There's mystery number one. Then we start out to see that Londo and G'Kar have finally made it to Centauri Prime. If you remember, the last episode, Veer was like, hey, you need it back on Centauri Prime because the Regent is a little sickly. He's going to die. We need you down there because you're going to become Emperor. And Londo is like, I don't know about all that, but okay, we're going to go. And he's taking G'Kar to be his bodyguard. And on Centauri Prime, G'Kar's presence is a major shock to the royal court because even though they have endured some coups, they endured assassinations, they endured the whole planet nearly being destroyed. When they see a Narn, they're like, oh my, because they're like super posh and high class. That's what happens with colonizers. They think that they're so removed from everybody. The person that meets him is Vitari, and he's like, oh, I see that you brought your own entertainment. Maybe we need to put him in chains to make everybody else comfortable because, they don't know what they're doing. And G'Kar is just kind of like quiet here, but Londo's like, I assure you, he's my bodyguard. Wherever I go, he goes. And this just shows how even though Londo has shown a little bit of change of heart, the Centauri are still xenophobic. They're still discriminatory. They're still against the Narn, and they're just kind of untouched by galaxy politics.
Yeah. It is really nice to see that Londo, along with his redemption and his change of perspective, that he notices the bigotry and the racism and confronts it immediately. And this isn't something that has to be brought to his attention, because that is one of the biggest struggles for me, like to try to have friends that are from a privileged group and then have to be the one to let the privileged individual know, even though you know that they care about you and that they don't intend to harm you with the privilege that they may have just been born into. But it's so exhausting to be on the side of harm in those situations. And it was refreshing to see Londo immediately taking up for G'Kar and making the people know, like, hey, this is what it is. Watch your mouth. And one other thing, them to align like a fear of anything, like, what do you have to be afraid of when you the one that then caused all the harm? Hello? That is just annoying. I'm complete.
Yeah, I think it's because they caused the harm that they're afraid, because they know that redemption is what they most likely deserve for what they've done. It's like they know they kind of know in the back of their head somewhere that if someone did this to me, this is how I would react, because they do it to each other all the time. That's part of the reason why they look the other way when someone is suddenly murdered, because they do each other all day anyway.
And a bit of that does get addressed in the episode. We'll talk about that in a couple scenes. So back on Babylon 5, we said that Gordon is having a conversation with his followers. And this again is a continuation of the storyline that happened in the last episode. If y'all remember the telepathic play party that they had.
Whoa.
Yeah. What would you call it? Yeah. And Gordon is like, okay, look, what I'm about to share with you is going to blow your minds. I'm sorry. I apologize because I'm laughing at it, but it is important because he's sharing that Lita was changed by the Vorlons and they revealed the truth to her. And then he's going to reveal the truth to all of his telepath people. And at this point, he is no longer a Magneto. He is Professor X to me now. He explains how the Vorlons created human telepaths. Like, telepathy occurred normally in many of the other species, but when it comes to humans, they were created by the Vorlons and perfected to be weapons to be used against the shadows. And the shadows are gone. Lita is trying to get him to like get off of this line, but he's like, no, look, yeah, the Vorlons are gone, the shadows are gone, but we're still here. We were created as a weapon for these people. And the Vorlons, they're the ones who are responsible. Their legacy is still here. They owe us. Pay what you owe.
Run me my money.
Because, right. He was like, what? We're left here, abandoned and alone. They're talking about the way that telepaths on Earth are treated. They're treated as second-class citizens. They're controlled by the government. They're regulated. And if you don't take the drugs and if you don't join Psychor, they are going to kill you. So they're all on the run. And he's insinuating that action must be taken for this truth that they know. So remember that whole Kingdom of the Blind title? This also can play into that. The telepaths were blind to the truth of their origins, and now they're in a place of rage where they're demanding some action. That's just a weird phrase.
It also kind of adds nothing to the story. They need an excuse to put in a sex scene for some reason. Look, because even if the Vorlons had made them into telepaths, they still need a place to live. They still want to get away from persecution. It adds to the metaphor, I guess. I mean, obviously it does add to the metaphor, but that's all it does. Like, it doesn't help the story for us to know that the guys from 2 seasons ago had something to do with this. Dun dun dun. Okay, and it doesn't affect anything else. Like, okay, we're here. We've been here. We still have this problem.
The one thing that it does, it offers a major incentive, not for them to do something, but for them to be angry. Because J. Michael Straczynski has to figure out a way to get the telepath war started. And so blaming the Vorlons and making telepaths angry, like, oh, we were created to be oppressed. Okay, I ain't standing for that. You know what I mean? Because Byron's whole argument is like, if it wasn't for the Vorlons, we wouldn't be treated like this. We would just be regular old people living regular old lives, and now we're on the run. And the people who are in power are pretending that they can't do nothing about it. And so they're going to try to force some people's hands.
Pay attention to me right now. Oh, that's what he's about to do.
Yeah. Back on Centauri, we got Lord Jano. He's talking with Londo, and he's talking about how the Regent has been acting really weird. He has this erratic behavior. He's very forgetful. He's been drinking a lot. And this conversation, I think, is great because the scene is written in such a way it's like, oh gosh, what's been going on? The story of how Verini ordered a guard to kill him because he's not himself, but everybody thinks like he's just a little eccentric. He's drunk, And Londo is like, that's surprising because Verini was never a drinker. He accepted sobriety as like a virtue. So this is very strange. And John was like, oh, people change. Power changes people. He also reveals that the other odd thing is reports that are normal, just like mundane reports, are now being filed as top secret. So things like grain and transportation and where things are going, where they're coming from, all that stuff is labeled as top secret and nobody knows why. And he says that a darkness has fallen over the palace. And he's glad that Londo's back because Londo will be the one to get to the bottom of it. He knows how to handle these sort of things. Do you remember what happened when Londo handled these sort of things in the past? He murdered a couple people.
Yeah. And wars broke out and all kind of shit went left.
Yeah.
He knows how to say it with his head high and his hand on his lapel.
Yep. Later we see that Jano is walking back to his quarters and he is attacked by an unseen assailant. And we see that it is the Regent that is there, like, who is witnessing what's going on. But the Regent, this dude got some crazy eyes. He got the wild eyes. And if y'all don't remember, the Regent was that shorter, flamboyant Centauri. He was the assistant or the attendant to the throne. Then when Verini met his unfortunate end, They was like, hey, you be the regent because you kind of knows what's going on here. And he's like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do.
When they reveal his little friend.
Yes. Yep. Back on Babylon 5, Delenn and Sheridan, they're having a discussion and they broke an agreement, but they dread the upcoming security report. So they're having this discussion with the council and about how like everybody's been attacked and whatnot. But there's like, okay, we're going to report on the security. Basically, we're seeing that like there is a dust up with the Interstellar Alliance members, and Sheridan and Delenn are trying their best to keep everybody calm. Like, hey, we're on top of this. Gordon and his telepaths, they are secretly following the ambassadors. We see a huge group going to the green sector lifts. We see some of those telepaths following them. Gordon speaks to Lita and he tells her that he's going to need her now more than any other time that he's needed her. And it just kind of sets the stage for a couple of things. Back on Centauri, Londo is still upset because they won't let him actually meet the Regent. Every time he's like, hey, I need to talk to the Regent. Oh, we don't actually know where he is. And so Londo is like, okay, well then where's Jono? Vatari's like, oh yeah, well, I'm struggling keeping up with my own itinerary. How am I supposed to keep up with somebody else's? In other words, like, why are you asking me, bro? So they just tell him he needs to hang out here. The surrounding Centauri and the court are the most, I don't even know how to describe them. Cause their whole thing is they're touching all on G'Kar's armor. And that is just gross. This reminds me of when I had locks and people of a certain persuasion were so like enamored by my hair that they would find themselves, unable to resist the urge to just randomly touch my hair without asking.
Oh.
And yeah, that whole situation is demeaning. Have you ever had that?
Oddly enough, I have not had that happen.
I think my resting bitch face prevents people from thinking that it'll be okay to touch me, but I do get requests quite often.
I don't know why people want to touch me, but for some reason people
I know why they want to touch you.
Asking. You shut your mouth. So in walks Vol, who is this older Centauri. He has this amazing white, frill of a hair top. It's great. And he's on like, Narns are barbarians. Never turn your back on them because they will stab you in it. And G'Kar turns around and is like, no, you're wrong. Narn wouldn't stab you in the back. We would stab you in the front because we want to be able to see the life leave your eyes. And I'm like, God. And that's true. That is true. That is 100% true. And Vol is like, okay, I got you. And he hands G'Kar a thing. He goes, do you know what that is? That's the whip that beat you when you were here last. And then he turns and he's like, you know who this is? Which is one of the guards. And he goes, this is the guard who whips you. I promise you, nothing will happen to you. You will not be arrested. You can do whatever you want to do. And G'Kar turns the whip on because it's like one of those electric whips. Because, getting whipped is not enough. You need to also electrify it, right? And then he walks behind the guard and then he just turns around and looks and he turns it off and he looks at Vol and he goes, who would you blame? The hand that does the evil or the heart that commanded it? And Vol is like, well, the heart. He goes, yes. But we also both understand that the true damage comes from the mouth that speaks it. And I thought that was a pretty interesting turnaround for G'Kar. He went the philosophical route to be like, I'm not falling for your petty little games here. Which they are trying to set G'Kar up to be the violent Narn that they lie to everybody about. Right? Yeah.
He also kind of throws it back in his face and he's being petty and I like that. It's like, see this guy is beneath you, so you can command him to get beaten by the guy that you command him to beat. And so it's kind of like it's that power structure where the people who feel like they have a little bit of power, who don't technically have any power, is also being generated in this, for less of a better term, in this situation where he's like showing off the fact that you're just giving commands. You're the one that's evil, not the one that actually did the beating. Because it won't his choice.
Right.
Of course, he's just following commands, but it's still like technically not his choice.
It wasn't his choice. It was Emperor Cartagia who died, and G'Kar is just trying to defuse the whole situation to be like, Cartagia was the insane one. He's dead. What's the point of all of this? We soon have G'Kar and Londo ushered off to the room where Jono was killed, and they see that he's hanging, and they're like, oh my God, what happened here? And Londo won't take his eyes off the body, and G'Kar's like, look, I looked into his eyes when I checked him, and he is not the type of person to kill himself. And Londo's like, yep, he was murdered. Like, he had no hesitation whatsoever. So they're not falling for any suicide tricks. Any lies about suicide. He was, yeah. We switch back to Babylon 5. We see that Gordon is having a conversation with the Garibaldi, and in my notes, it says that Gordon tricks Garibaldi, but then at the same time, it's like Garibaldi is so trickable. Like, he's dumb at the exact moments he shouldn't be, and he's all in everybody's business at the moments that he shouldn't be. He's sitting with Gordon. Gordon is talking about like, hey, I need to have a conversation with the president. And Garibaldi's like, well, why? And Gordon's like, well, Gordon is kind of keeping it tight-lipped. And Garibaldi is trying to lecture him. And he's like, I can't really set this up if you don't tell me what the reason is. And then at that point, this is what I think is happening. I think Gordon scans Garibaldi, and Garibaldi doesn't notice, right? Yeah, that came across, right? And then Gordon throws at him. He's like, hey, I hear you're having trouble with the shipping lines. I have information, and I can address the council about that. And so Garibaldi's like, okay, cool, we'll set it up. Great. So Byron is allowed to go ahead and talk to the council. So in the council meeting, it is so wild because they're like, we got Sheridan. He's like, okay, after this measure, okay, we are going to have a special guest to come address the council. We have Byron. Byron comes in, and then Byron comes in along with Lita, and Lita's are handing out these folders to everyone. And Byron is like, okay, look, I know I said I was coming here for one thing, but I'm amending my address to address something else. What you are receiving in these folders is information about how human telepaths were created. We were created to serve you, and we're not doing that right now. We demand that you give us our own home. And that's where Sheridan is like, you're out of order.
And that was out of order. The writing of his character in this moment is out of order. I was so shocked by his outburst and unwillingness to hear the telepaths out, and then use some of that, slick wit that he has to find a loophole that can, oh God, there's a word there, but could bring forth peace in this moment.
Yeah. I think if the telepaths that came to him behind the scenes and acts, which they're scared to, which I don't know why, because they've been scanning people's heads all day. But if they had gone to Sheridan on the side and said, like, this is what we want, can you help us? He could have sneakily found a way to do that. Like, they've been sneaking around Earth Force for the last 2 years. But for him to, like, demand it in public robbed him of that.
There's also, like, if you think about the whole if there's a procedure for these meetings, Sheridan could have been like, hey, I'm glad you brought that up. We're dealing with some stuff right now. Let's talk about it next time. But no, he immediately starts shooting down Byron, and he claims like, hey, there's nothing we can do about it. He's like, what you're asking is impossible. And this is where Byron, he just anticipates that move. He goes, look, I understand what you're saying. That's why I had every member followed by our telepaths, and we scanned you all, and we got all of your secrets. So you're going to give us our home world, or we're going to reveal all your dirty little secrets. And that pisses everybody off. On one hand, I can see how like that's a little overkill, but on the other hand, you know what? Considering this episode, I kind of want politicians' dirty secrets to be revealed. I want their secrets to be laid out open to the public so they can be scrutinized, demonized, and people can actually make decisions with like full information of what's going on. But, you know, they're all about their state secrets because if y'all don't know, these worlds, they were all extremely selfish before they became the Interstellar Alliance, and they're still behaving in that way. Now, if we want to review this based on the writing aspect of it, these councils are supposed to be notoriously hard to deal with. It reminds me in Mass Effect, the Citadel Council, they make the dumbest decisions in the game ever, and you just got to deal with them. You know what I mean? So yeah, Garibaldi is blaming himself. He's beating himself. He's like, I should have known to never trust a telepath. Shut up, Garibaldi. And Sheridan absolves him, and he's just like, it's not your fault. That's where Delenn draws parallels between Sheridan's own inconvenience methods during the Earth Civil War, and this echoes what the president of Earth Force, or the president of Earth, said to him. Like, yeah, you did the right thing, but it was politically inconvenient. And it's wild to hear Sheridan even use those terms, like it was inconvenient, because he understands inconvenient. He understands all of that. And just like Sunday said, he also understands like malicious compliance. He knows how to follow things to the letter in a way that it will go against the people who made the law and serve the people who are trying to find freedom. Right? Mm-hmm. And Delenn also reminds me, like, hey, they were forced to join Psychor to take drugs. Wouldn't you want a place of your own? And yeah, she's being the voice of reason. And this is where we see Sheridan has to sit and think about this for a bit, right?
You know,
and it's like, what did y'all
we go back to
plan to do with them anyway? All telepaths from everywhere can't seek solace on Babylon 5, and the ones that are there can't stay forever either. So, like, what kind of alternative were y'all considering other than this?
Yeah.
Right.
And we've been saying this whole time, who has the biggest secrets that she's been holding on to all this time?
Delenn.
She's going to get whatever they want.
Yeah. Like, hey, why don't we just give it?
Like, she has some really good points, but like, there might be some more motivation behind the reason her having those really good points.
That's funny. I didn't think of that at all.
Yeah. And Sheridan is becoming a full-on diplomat to a fault. He's not actually helping anything in this situation. Back on Centauri Prime, Londo and G'Kar, they're waiting for Vitade. G'Kar is eating, and he's sitting down eating, and Londo's like, how come every time I see you, you're eating? Like, why are you always talking? Well, I'm like, why are you always eating? And G'Kar, he rebuts back, and he's like, hey, it's bad luck to die on an empty stomach. I died laughing. I'm like, what? Like, what does that even mean? And I guess we had to make the comment because bro is always eating. Every season he has a meal that is memorable. Vitale finally lets them in to see the Regent in his private bed chambers, and that bothers me a lot. Talk about that later. And this is where G'Kar and Londo are ambushed. They are led down a hall, and they start getting followed. G'Kar is like, okay, look, when I yell, you run. And he's like, go. And then Londo is running, but G'Kar gets like grabbed by a bunch of hands, and then the door slams. And Londo comes face to face with Vol. And Vol is like, you are inconvenient for my ambitions. And he pulls out a knife and he throws it at him. And right before it strikes him, it stops midair. The knife just stops. It hits a 180, flips back, and it goes right into Vol's chest. And then Londo's like, I don't understand what just happened. And he turns his back, and in the doorway, he sees red eyes and the face of, I can't remember the name of that alien species, but that species that the Minbari had met with, and they was like, let's get out of here because they used to serve the shadows. Uh-huh. Those people. And then the door closes and the guy is gone. And then G'Kar's door opened and he's over there beating up people. And they have to like get out of there really quickly. And it's a wild ambush. Is this the action y'all were talking about?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Because didn't even though we saw the guy get hung, well, you mentioned that we saw the conversation that he had where he actually got killed, though, right? Who was he talking to when that happened?
He was talking to Verini, the Regent, and Verini was like, Verini was talking to him.
I remember when you were a child and Emperor so and so just carried you through the whole place and stuff. Do you remember that? He's like, yeah. He's like, if it was up to me, it wouldn't be you. And he's like, what are you talking about? And then they come kill him. And he's just looking like, oh, okay, they killed him.
Back on Babylon 5, Gordon is with all of his folks, and he's like, okay, check this out. They don't like us right now. We need to hunker down. We need to bring in all of our food, all of our rations. Everybody needs to like lock this place down. We need to be in place and just wait it out. We don't need to fight them. Because if we fight and we be violent, that means we lose our protections and they're going to come after us. So let's like chill out. If we don't do anything violent, security has to protect us. And I don't know the black guy's name, but he's all like, look, I don't think we should be non-violent like this because they're going to keep coming after us anyway. Some of the telepaths, they want to go and get some more supplies. Mm-hmm. And make sure that we're okay. And Gordon's like, no, we need to stay quiet, wait for the council to respond. But the followers are like, no, because if we stay put, they're going to keep coming after us. In the meantime, some of the followers get attacked by the Drazi. And I wrote here in my notes that, yeah, the Drazi have been nothing but thugs the entire series. So of course they would be the first to track down some telepaths and start beating them. Like, which one of you defiled our ambassador? Like, yeah. We don't talk enough about how rough the Drazi are.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, anytime something bad goes down, somebody has to mention the Drazi.
Right. They started those. They have that yearly battle royale. They party pretty hard. They're fearless. They even had like an extortion ring set up.
Mm-hmm.
These dudes, yeah. Like when it comes to peace in the galaxy, they're the ones who are doing the most to go against it. Any old way. So the Drazi are attacking the telepaths, and this undermines the peaceful stance that Gordon has. So all the other telepaths are like, nah, we about to go up there. We about to roll on these fools. And so they start fighting back, and Gordon is like, oh no.
What's wrong with him? You know, we need to stay nonviolent, even in the midst of one of their members being abused. Like, you not even gonna use violence in defense? Hell no.
Right. I mean, at least defend yourself. That's the least thing. That's the whole point of doing all this.
there's this really cool book. It's called "That Nonviolent Stuff Is Going to Get You Killed," and it's basically a critique of nonviolence as a revolutionary tactic because, like Kwame Ture even states, like nonviolence only works if your opponent has a conscience, and typically in these oppressed dynamics, the oppressor has no conscience because they're the oppressor. They will justify their use of violence to oppress people, no matter what happens. So basically, the telepaths are going out, they having gang fights. And this pisses everybody off. This really frustrates Gordon. And he's like, oh gosh, I've been trying to help these people and they're going against everything. Back on Centauri, Vitari claims that he's glad that Londo survived the assassination attempt. Londo suspects that Vitari is stalling regarding the Regent's whereabouts. And then finally, they let Londo and G'Kar in, and they're backing into the hidden chambers now of Verini. And Verini speaks cryptically, hinting that unforeseen forces, the they that he often mentions, have saved Londo. And Londo's like, who is they? He's like, you'll find out. Oh, you'll find out. They actually like you. They think that you're just like them. You share so much in common. And I'm just like, that's cryptic and it's funny. Cause remember, Londo has been going on this redemption arc for over a season and a half, but he is still looked at as a potential agent of the shadows or darkness. And Verini warns Londo. He's like, hey, we'll speak again. You'll see me again before the end. And Londo leaves and he's like, I don't understand what is happening here. Cause G'Kar's like, what did you learn? And Londo's like, I don't know. Back in his chambers, Verini comes face to face with that skull monsters with red eyes. And he's like, I didn't tell him anything. And he's being strangled by an alien around his neck because apparently he's revealed too much. So Londo's like, yo, I don't know about you, G'Kar, but we need to get out of here right now. So let's go back to Babylon 5 as soon as possible. And G'Kar's like, I thought we were going to stay for a couple more days. And Londo's like, nope, we need to get out of here. Unbeknownst to them, a Centauri ship, this is all in outer space, a Centauri ship, it opens fire on a Valkyrie vessel, completely destroying it. You can hear the broadcast of the Valkyrie ship saying like, we've done nothing to you. And they just destroy it. Back on Babylon 5, Gordon and Lita, they're in bed together. But we hear an extremely dumb voice come over the loudspeaker. It's Zach. Zach, is this thing on? Okay. And then he clears his throat real loudly in it. Dear telepath, you need to hear, I did skip the part. Basically, the part that I skipped, and, watch the show. The part that I skipped is when Zach went to Sheridan, he was talking about Lockley. Lockley wants to revoke protections, but Sheridan's the president, and Sheridan is talking to Zach, and he's like, yeah, they left me no choice. We are revoking protections. Go in and round them up. And this is one of those things where I was just like, as soon as things become inconvenient for a diplomat or for a politician, they send the cops. And then as much as Zach is like, I'm trying to do the right thing, he's still a cop. Whether it was going to be with Clark or Sheridan, it doesn't matter. He's going to round people up because that's his job, right? And he's not stopping crime. He's stopping people from achieving freedom.
Yo, that makes me think about a vid that I saw earlier today where private prison owners are suing states that told them that they would ensure a certain number of prison population, and now that they are falling short on that, the private prison owners are suing the state for the difference. Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Those dots are connecting without me continuing. Yeah.
Yeah. We can talk a little bit more about it. I do want to have a discussion about like what is the actual symbol of fascism? Is it a state actor or is it private companies? Anyway, so we hear this over the loudspeaker. He urges the telepaths and Lita to surrender peacefully, and Lita refuses. And this is when Gordon speaks to her and says he will have a question for her later. So the telepaths, of course they're going to resist. They're not going into custody. They find themselves in a tough situation, but the situation was not created by them. And now everyone that pretended to be an ally to them is starting to look at them as a liability. And so we end the show on this very tense moment.
Yep. That's what happened.
It's kind of like the episode does end on a cliffhanger, but that means, okay, we're going to address this in the next coming episodes. I like it because we are going to continue this, but there is not a rush towards an end here. We are getting the telepath and normies conflict heated up, and I like where they're going with it because it's not just against humans, it's against all of the species. Like, y'all used us to fight a war now.
Mm-hmm.
And we coming, y'all gonna pay us what you owe.
Hello.
This also kind of reminds me of Deep Space Nine and the Maquis.
Oh yeah.
Because remember the Maquis were like, we were living peacefully until the Federation showed up, negotiating with fascists. and they created they created a separatist group by doing that. And that's kind of what's going on with the telepaths. It's like, look, y'all put us in this situation. We need our own homeland. We can't live with y'all because y'all trying to put us in prison and trying to use us and trying to drug us. We don't need any of that. We just need to be left alone. And everybody's like, no. No. So how do y'all feel about the changes in Sheridan?
Hated it. Actually, I am no longer surprised after recapping this, because this is what I try to tell people all the time about reform, and we got to get one of ours inside the system that's gonna, fight for our cause and da 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 da. No, they not. They gonna get wrapped up in that system and then be the same problem that the current system is, because the system is corrupt from the inception, and there is no way to cut it out. It's too deep and ingrained in its origin, for you to change it. It's like trying to take flour out of bread or the baking soda.
I like how you said it, because the telepaths were created as an asset. They were a weapon. Mm-hmm. And these systems, they do reduce people down to numbers, down to what they can produce, down to how they can be an asset. But when it comes time to actually clothing, housing, feeding, employing people, the systems and the governments have a very hard time doing that, because that's not even what they're supposed to do according to themselves. What governments are supposed to do and what these systems are supposed to do is consolidate power. And they try to find ways to do that with the consent of the people. And then when people don't consent, they do it by force. That's what President Clark was doing. He was like, look, y'all need Psychor. Y'all need Night Watch. Y'all need the Ministry of Peace. And he was using indoctrination and coercive tactics to do that. But we got to ask the question, what was Earth like before that stuff happened? Earth was kind of terrible. Remember, Sinclair had to deal with senators who were do-nothing senators. Mm. They resisted at every turn any way to improve or reform things.
Yeah, they were just
kind of like in real life.
Taking up space.
Yep.
And that's, I think, like the other aspect of the idea of putting new people in, because if it's flooded with people who either don't care or flooded with people who want to suck up to the money and the powers that be, what if we flooded it with people who actually cared about the people? And that way you don't have to get corrupted by the system that sits there. You would now have a new system. We just need a new system.
I hear what you're saying. The issue, especially in America, the issue we run into is you get these people who have every intention to go in. We're going to clean up Washington. We're going to do this. And they slowly turn into the self-enriching politicians because either they're incentivized by their party or they're incentivized by opportunity, or they realize they don't actually have the power to change things that they think that they have because the whole system is set up to take away individual power and put it at the top. And so there are those who see reform as a foolhardy frustration because there are things you can't reform because the system is going to morph and adapt to it and still consolidate power and take it from people. And so there are those who are like, no, we need to dismantle this all the way down to the ground, burn it in cinders, turn it into dust, and build something
here.
Yeah. And I look at it as you build something new now. So when the stuff crumbles around you, you're not left with nothing. You don't have to start from scratch because you already built it. So there are a lot of perspectives on this, and it is interesting to see how J. Michael Straczynski is wrestling with this because, it's a military drama, right? We're in the military watching these people try to follow the rules and they get frustrated at every turn because they're like, how can I do the right thing when the rules tell me I can't do the right thing?
So I have all power, but no authority.
Right. I got to go through these different channels. I got to get permission. I got to get these people to sign on. And it's like, okay, so think about the Drazi. The Drazi are just like these nefarious aliens, and they are on our side. The Centauri, they're colonizers that started an intergalactic war, and they're on our side.
Mm-hmm.
That's who they got to negotiate with. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a lot to discuss there. There are some parallels with the way that Star Trek handled it as well, but they handled it straight up. They were just like, remember when Quark had that monologue about how humans are worse than the Ferengi?
I need to rewatch. That's what I've been going through, a rewatch of most of that stuff. I'm like, you know what? It's been a few decades since I've really watched it.
Oh yeah. You will see a lot of things that you enjoy, especially, it's been a couple of decades. So there's some things you have a little bit more context to observe. So we end this episode and we are asked, we want to know, will the Alliance come to their senses and grant the telepaths their home world? Will Londo make it out safely? Will we figure out what's going on with the Centauri ships destroying these other ships? Stay tuned. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but I think it is going to be great. So let's get on up out of here. Thank y'all for joining us for this episode of Voices in Hyperspace. You can follow us on our YouTube, on TikTok, and on our Facebook. Keep the conversation going. Go to all of those things at Voices in Hyperspace. I'm Legendary Black Lion. You can follow my TikTok and my Instagram at Legendary Black Lion.
I am Mel Asylum. You can find me at melsrebellion.com, where you can read the first chapter of my book, Unreading the System, and let me know what you think. And then you can also buy it too. So, yeah.
Yep. Be sure to buy the book, y'all.
Hey, y'all. This is Sunday. You can find me at a poker table.
Until next time, we'll see you out there. Peace.